Yes. Let's just hope there's more feedback from the people watching. Yeah.
Woohoo! Small audience, so this is going to be interactive.
Now that we've run full circle.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, since this is a makeup workshop, I think maybe I should just go ahead and kick that off. All right. So welcome everybody to About Face, Phantom costuming, makeup, and hair. For those that don't know me, I think everybody was in a costume panel before. But my name is Lindsay. I'm better known online as Phantom on a Budget from PhantomOnABudget.com. Slide. Okay, so that's what I look like in real life. So, yes, I'm a woman cross-dressing as an old ugly dude. I'm not really sure why anymore. It kind of started out as just a Halloween costume many, many years ago. And as I've spoke about earlier, it's just so much cheaper, faster, easier to throw a mask on your face and you're instantly Phantom of the Opera instead of trying to go for a whole character. So, Halloween thing kind of evolved into repetitive, I like playing with makeup. And then after a year or two of doing that just for Halloween, I had a lot of people asking me, hey, how do you do the makeup? How do you do the hair? How do you do, where do you get your costume pieces from? Like, where does that come? So after a few months of writing the same stuff over and over again, I decided to launch a website, so that's where Phantom on a Budget came from. It's a tutorial website. It's got millions of hits, and I've been able to help thousands and thousands of people so far. Just get started in their Phantom costuming makeup. So it's been a really fun ride. Everything on the website is, again, geared toward the first-time Phantom costumers. So if you've never done makeup, you've never done costuming, that's the place to go. It's going to have a lot of great resources for you, both on the tutorial makeup side as well as where you can get costume pieces. So everything I talk about today is going to be discussed in length on the website. So if you have any questions, or if you leave here thinking, oh, I wish I asked her that, just go to PhantomOnABudget.com and everything is there. So, and I've also actually been lucky enough to consult on several amateur productions worldwide, so that has been a real treat for me, a real honor. So that's pretty much that. That's me. So the overview for today's workshop is going to be, again, this very low-budget introductory makeup. So we're going to talk about design and safety, why that's important. We're going to discuss three-dimensional makeup techniques, such as gelatin, liquid latex, and some other materials. We're going to talk about two-dimensional makeups, your foundations, and color, what you're going to use to color the makeup. We're going to touch on hair and wigs very quickly. And then we're going to do a question and answer. So because there's a ton of info that I'm going to go over, just, again, like before, please keep your questions to the end, and then we'll go through all that. So, all right, makeup design. Kind of like with your costume design, if you have a very specific idea in mind for your Phantom makeup, you want to have a plan. So it's totally okay to go out and buy a ton of different makeup supplies and just kind of throw them on your face and see what happens. If that's your goal, it's kind of freestyle. And you just want to get comfortable with makeup, comfortable how to create different things, and it's great. But if you want a very specific design, say the Angela Weber, which is what I'm wearing right now, or Gaston Leroux, or Slasher Phantom, Robert Englund, or your own design, it's very important to have a plan, which is great. That's fine. So what do you do? How do you get a plan? Well, you need to sit down and you need to make a couple decisions first about your makeup. So one thing that you want to figure out is, okay, do I want a congenital sort of birth defect kind of look like what I've got on right now? Or do you want something that's maybe a traumatic disfigurement, so an acid burn, or maybe you want to fight with a lawnmower? I mean, lawnmower fights happen, I don't know. But this is just some big decisions that you have to make because, again, a congenital birth defect, there are many, many out there that can affect your face, and you want to have an idea of what that really looks like and what you need to achieve that. Same thing with a traumatic disfigurement, so burns, for example. Acid burn looks different from a chemical burn, which is different from a fire burn, which looks different from, it just depends on the type of burn. So if you have a backstory for your character, make sure that your makeup design falls in line with that backstory, so that you don't get something that looks very different from, whatever it is that's going on in your mind. Again, planning ahead saves a lot of time and money because some materials that we use work better for certain types of makeup than others. So it's tough when you're, if you want to do something like this and you go out and you buy the wrong type of makeup, and it's more difficult, it's more expensive, you waste time and you waste money. So that's why having attorneys is important. And the key to a great makeup is realism, not complexity. So a very simple makeup that's executed very well looks much better than something that has multiple different materials and it's a big elaborate design, and if it's applied incorrectly or just the details aren't there, it can look very cheap and very, just generally just very bad. Alright, next slide. Safety. This is your safety. It's very important to keep in mind to be safe when you're using makeup, because it is on your face, or if you're working on somebody else, it's on their face. You want to make sure that there are no materials that they're allergic to. So you should know, hopefully, if you have a latex allergy, to not use latex. Period. Dot. Don't do it. But if you're working on somebody else, make sure the communication is there. You need to talk to them. Make sure if they have any allergies or sensitivities at all to any kind of material, that they don't use that material. Read the labels extremely carefully. So if they have an instruction sheet, every type of makeup material that I have, I know comes with a basic rundown on the back of the bottle, how to use it. Or don't do this. Make sure you read that label very carefully. Because if you don't, bad things can happen. I'll tell you my Richard Gelatin story later. That was no fun. And if they come with MSDS's material safety data sheets, be sure to read those, just cover your bases, make sure you're good to go. Hygiene is very important. So make sure you clean all your tools, your brushes and whatnot between each use, even if you only ever work on yourself, because you don't want bacteria and everything growing in there. It's no good. It's especially important when you're working on multiple people. So if you're doing a theater production, make sure you clean everything very thoroughly before you move on to the next person. And of course, wash your hands. All right, that concludes the safety brief. On to the fun stuff. Next slide. So the first material that we're going to be talking about is a 3D material, so three-dimensional, meaning something like this where you can see this 3D effect of deformity. Gelatin is a very interesting material. I think it's extremely versatile. It's, for the most part, very beginner-friendly, and it's also relatively cheap. So again, this whole talk is just about introductory makeup, very basic techniques, very basic materials, low-budget stuff. So everybody here in this room can go use and make a Phantom disfigurement with it. And gelatin is one of those materials. So it's great for burn makeup. I think it's probably the best material out there for burn makeup. I'm blocking you guys, so I'm going to go over here. Kind of the neat thing with gelatin is that you can buy it pre-made or you can mix your own. So buying it pre-made, if you want to get a special effects gelatin, they come in a variety of sizes, a variety of colors. You can get blood colored, you can get flesh colored. They're pretty straightforward. Straight gelatin, I skipped one. Straight gelatin is the simplest version of gelatin, and that is something that you can run out to your grocery store and buy today for about $1.25. It's in the baking section next to the Jello. And it comes in little Knox brand boxes. And basically straight gelatin, what you can do is take that, mix it with hot water. You get like a kind of warm goo, and it's fantastic. Actually, can you do me a favor? Let me get the bag. I brought a bunch of stuff, so we can do show and tell, and then I forgot it. So, but I'll keep talking about gelatin, it's pretty neat. So that's straight gelatin. So for the beginner special effects makeup artists, it's kind of a real pillar in their supply box, because it is so accessible and it is so cheap. So again, you can learn to make a lot of different effects with it: bullet holes, cuts, burns. The trick with gelatin is because once it's hot, it cools down very quickly. Once it cools, it sets. So with straight gelatin, again, because it is so cheap, it's a great material. Because you can learn to work the material very quickly and obstacle. Thank you much. Appreciate you. Be prepared, everybody. Okay, here we go. Knox brand gelatin. Very fun. Very easy, and just, it's great. But so, like I was saying, so the great thing about straight gelatin is that you can learn to use it. The problem with straight gelatin is that it tends to dry out, so after an hour or two of wearing it, it will harden and pop off, even if you have it glued down. So it's a great intro material, but if you want something that you're going to wear all day, or something that you can reuse, I really suggest going for the special effects gelatin, which again, you can buy it, or, and this is just a bottle of FX Warehouse's special effects gelatin, very straightforward. That you pretty much just put in the microwave for like 20 seconds. It comes out warm, and you just pour it all over you, and you move it around, and it sets, and you powder it, and you're done. It's easy. If you want to make it, though, to save money, which is a great thing, and I love it very much, it's basically 4 ingredients. So it's water and gelatin, and then you also add glycerin, which is something you can buy at a drugstore. And what the glycerin does is it keeps it soft. So it keeps the gelatin from drying out, hardening, and popping off your face. So glycerin keeps it soft, and then the sorbitol, what that does, it adds tensile strength. So basically that means it doesn't tear as easily once you have sorbitol into it. That's all stuff that you can buy at the drugstore or the grocery store. And just to, anybody wants to pass it around, you can. This is a set of Phantom prosthetics that are made out of the special effects gelatin. So it's very fleshy, it's flexible, feels like skin. It's pretty neat. So it's a great intro material for those that really want something that's very flesh-like. Kind of the nice thing about gelatin too is that it's reusable. So I can put that in a mold, and if I pull it out and I don't like how it pulled, or if I put it directly on my face in what we call an out-of-kit makeup, which is you build it directly on your face, and you don't like how it looks, take it off, put it back in the microwave, melt it down, try again. So that's where it's a very cost-effective material as well. So that's why it's just fantastic. You can use it in and around your skin, not your skin, but your hair, unlike latex, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Gelatin will go directly in your hair and come directly out. It will not pull out the hair. It's fantastic for use over your eyebrows. I've seen people do full burn makeups, and they run the gelatin up into their scalp, like way back here. And it's fine because you just lift it out, and anything that doesn't come out, then you just take a hot shower. Easy. Yeah, but so the one thing about gelatin I'm going to caution everybody with is that because you do have to heat it up to use it, be careful not to burn yourself, because it's not like water where you can just shake it off and it's gone. It will stick to you, so if it's too hot, it will burn you. So just be very careful. When heating gelatin up in the microwave, for example, less is always more. A little bit of gelatin only takes 10 seconds to melt down. That's all you need. So you don't want to burn it. You don't want to make it boil or anything like that. Just play with it a little bit, kind of get comfortable with how much gelatin that you're using and how much time it takes to melt it down. It's a better idea to use gelatin in small batches. So if you're doing like an entire half of the face or the whole face, do it in small batches. Do like part of the forehead, this part of the forehead. Break it down because the gelatin is a lot easier to work with in small batches. All right, slide please. All right, liquid latex. It is August, which means that it is officially Halloween. Didn't you know that? So liquid latex is probably one of the favorite Halloween time makeup materials. You're going to find it everywhere, starting right about now, and running all the way through the end of October. It's, again, because it's readily available, it's relatively cheap as well. And like gelatin is also extremely versatile. So you can use it directly on your face, again, in out-of-kit build-up type makeup, or you can put it into a mold and create prosthetics, which is what I've done. And what I'm wearing right now is a set of liquid latex prosthetics that I made. And relatively simple, you just make a very easy plastic mold. You paint in a couple of layers of liquid latex. If you want some more depth, like I have here, this deformity has a lot of creative properties to it. It's very deep. You just add some cotton in there, and it helps build up the depth of the deformity. I'm going to pass this around. Again, this is latex, so if you have a latex allergy, skip it. But that doesn't cost very much to produce if you want to make your own Phantom prosthetics. And latex, liquid latex especially, is relatively reusable, so if you apply it and remove it very carefully, you can save it and apply it again later. Some of the more common techniques that we use with liquid latex is, again, a build-up style makeup. So what you can do is put a layer of liquid latex down on your face using like a makeup wedge, something cheap. Again, because it sticks to hair, don't use a favorite makeup brush because you're going to ruin your brush. So I like to use this makeup wedges. It's very easy. You just throw them in the trash when you're done and say goodbye to them forever. Put down layer of liquid latex. Take some cotton balls, break them into pieces, put the latex or cotton into the latex, and you take that latex saturated cotton and you can put them on your face to build up a bunch of different types of designs. So I can do this kind of Angela Weber design. I can put the cotton underneath my eyebrows and on top and on the cheekbones to create more of a Gaston Leroux skull makeup. It's very easy. It's just tedious because again it's a lot of applying a layer of liquid latex, applying some cotton, applying liquid latex, applying the cotton. So that will take, if I did this makeup with that, it would take about 3 hours just from the layering and everything. But with Prosthetic, I can get this on and pretty much be out the door in about an hour, depending how fast I'm moving. That was not the case today because I'm slow today. Whoops. Let me see. So that's how you create a very simple prosthetic, is just building it on your face. Another thing you can use liquid latex for is old age stipple. Old age stipple is natural material to create wrinkle effects if you're playing an older character. It's a thinned out version of liquid latex, but if all you have is liquid latex, if you apply it very carefully, you can actually create an old age stipple type of look. So it's great for laying hair. So if you're doing a beard or a mustache kind of thing, or if you're doing a bald cap and you want a receding hairline, or you're doing maybe an alopecia phantom look, you can take latex, apply it to the bald cap, lay hair into it, let that dry, and you're good to go. So liquid latex is best painted with rubber mask grease paint, and that's because grease paint is oil-based, castor oil-based, and it was designed to work on latex. So if you don't use grease paint, you have other options, but again, I would not use cream makeup, which is very popular. Cream makeup lacks the castor oil ingredient. If you put it on the liquid latex, you leave it on there long enough, it will distort the latex. It will basically begin to eat the latex and wreck it. So if you're just doing a quick 2-hour Phantom makeup and you're just going out for Halloween and you're just going to rip it off, throw it in the trash when you're done, yeah, you can probably use cream makeup and get away with it. It's no big deal. But if you want it to last all day, like today, I'm doing this for 12 hours. So I need this to not get eaten away on my face and look even more gnarly than it already is. So I use grease paint. It's just one of those things. Cream makeup. You can use cream makeup if you first prepare the latex with a castor sealer, which is just a liquid that you paint on there, leave it on there for about 10-15 minutes, wipe it off, and then you can use the cream makeup. All right, liquid latex to go. Next slide. That's me too. Looking really horrible on an early morning. So liquid latex, as you can see, there are a couple of cautions with it. Obviously, do not use it if you have a latex allergy. If you don't know if you have a latex allergy, talk to your doctor. Some people say, hey, it's okay to test it on the back of your hand. I'm not a doctor. I'm not comfortable telling you to do that. So if you don't know if you have a latex allergy or you think that you might, talk to your doctor and work it out. Also, don't work around the hair. So as we said before, latex and hair, it's a bad combo. So if you put wet liquid latex in your eyebrows, you will not have eyebrows. And it's a really horrible, I mean, there's so many easier ways of not having eyebrows than having to rip the latex off and, you know, it's no good. So, yeah, so don't let it get near your hair, your eyebrows, facial hair if you have some, and your clothing too. It doesn't come out of clothing. So if it gets on your clothes, it's staying there forever. It's a wonderful material, I swear. Don't allow it to freeze. So if you're buying latex in the winter, just be careful about your shipping and how you're getting it to your house. If you're buying it from like a store or something and they're shipping it to you, because once it freezes, it is ruined. And don't ask me how this last bit came into play, but don't go out to the Home Depot and buy latex caulking and think that you can use it for latex makeup. It's, I've had a lot of very interesting emails over the years. That one, I think that one is the most interesting and borderline scary. They have this really great idea, and there's a Home Depot right down the street, and I saw they had liquid latex caulking. I'm like, I hope it's not liquid latex. But good initiative, I appreciate that. Yeah? There you go.
Where do you get latex from? Not Home Depot.
Not Home Depot.
No, Premier on Perry Street. They're fantastic and helpful.
Okay.
Most places, I mean, I'm not from this area, but most places have a Halloween or party store. Especially around Halloween, you can find it everywhere.
Yep.
Anything that's going to stock any type of Halloween costume, you can typically find it with latex. Also, if you go on my website, phantomcon.com, I have links to really good makeup sites, like theatrical grade makeup sites, so it's the better quality stuff. Latex will actually vary in a density and quality, so I tend to buy the thicker, heavier, non-ammonia version of it because it's better for making prosthetics, and it also wears better. It doesn't shrink as much, because liquid latex will, once it dries, it will shrink slightly as time goes on. So, all right, next slide, please. Other 3D makeup. Go back over here. I like to walk. All right, so nose and scar wax, aka nose putty, or mortician's wax, which is a softer version of that. Really not my favorite material. It's a huge favorite amongst like beginner stage makeup type classes, and I understand why. For me, it's because it's so dense and it's very heavy. I only like to use it really around parts of the face that don't move very much. So the nose, hence its name, nose putty. It's great on the nose because this isn't going to move and twist and come up. It's not great if you're trying to do a big 3D kind of effect like what I'm wearing right now, because again, it's very thick, it's very heavy, it doesn't move very well when you have it in large quantities. Just a quick tip though with nose putty, if you want it to really last longer, put down a layer of prosthetic adhesive, put some cotton, loose cotton fiber into the adhesive, and then put the nose putty on top of that, and what that's going to do is help anchor the wax a lot better. And then what you do is take liquid latex or a flexible sealer and cover over the wax, and that's going to seal it and prepare it for makeup. So that's nose scar wax. Again, everybody has their preferences. All this stuff that we've been talking about, again, because it is low budget, very introductory, I mean, it's just going to depend on what you prefer to work with. So that's why I have it up there. Richard Collodion, my old friend. This is probably the singularly most perfect makeup material out there for one purpose, and that's for creating very thin, indented scars. So something like, you know, if somebody had taken claws and gone like this across their face and want the scar to go inward, Richard Collodion is probably the most perfect material you can use. It's very dummy-proof. It is simply a, I don't have any to show you, but it's just a little bottle of liquid, and you paint that on in the design that you want, and you let that dry. And as it dries, it brings the skin together and inward. So creating a very cool, indented, very hyper-realistic scar. Very good. And the more depth that you want, just the more layers you put on. And let them dry in between. It's not recommended for large scarring. So, how do I know this? My first Phantom makeup was back in like 2003, 2004, and I saw Richard Collodion out at some Halloween party store, and I'm like, oh, that looks great. And then I thought I would do the Gerard Butler Phantom makeup all over. And because Richard Collodion, again, it draws the skin together, that's how it creates the effect. It's best over very fleshy parts of the face, and also not a large area, because it doesn't have much to pull against. Once you have a large area, you know, it's just pulling too much. So it will irritate the skin quite a lot if you put too much of it on, and that's exactly what happened. I had the whole sunburn of doom going on for the next 3 days. And I wasn't wearing makeup. I'm like, wow, your makeup was really great, you should probably take it off. I did. And it was still rather very angry. So again, Richard Collodion, perfect for one very singular use. And again, if you want to create just a couple of very thin scars, it's fantastic. The Joker scarring from like Dark Knight, perfect for that too. 3D prosthetic transfers. So I do want to spend a couple minutes talking about this because I think this is one of the most interesting materials out there these days. These are the new industry standards for film and TV. And they're also a great option for anybody that has a liquid latex or just general latex allergy. So what's a transfer? Okay, so you remember those, the fake tattoos that you get when you're a kid, you know, you put them on and you wet down the back and you take it back. The exact same thing, only instead of a butterfly tattoo, you get a bullet hole, or you get a cut, or you get a burn effect, or an entire split throat effect. I mean, it's very, very cool. You can buy them pre-made, obviously. They have lots of these out there today. They are, again, becoming the industry standard. So if you see a really good-looking prosthetic makeup in a movie or on TV show these days, probably very likely that it's a 3D transfer. So why is this such a great option? Well, if you buy them pre-made, all you really need to apply them is just a pair of scissors to cut them out of the sheet, and then a wet sponge. That's it. You simply put it where you want it, you wet the backing down, you hold it, take the backing off very carefully, and then just kind of pat it down, and you're done. That's it. So no latex involved at all. They're usually made out of a prosthetic adhesive paste, so it's just a glue, very strong glue, which is thickened with a silica powder. So because of that mixture, what that does is it gives it a very hyper-realistic texture to it, and it blends it seamlessly into the skin. I mean, seamlessly. You do not tell that it's an actual of things. So there's kind of a trifecta of makeup. There's cheap, easy, and realistic. Because these are easy and very realistic, they're not cheap. So if you want like a face full of just like zombie scarring that they have out there, it's going to cost you about $20 for that sheet, which in my opinion isn't really a whole lot if you think about it, because you get a good 5 or 6 scars. But definitely not as cheap as with the latex or gelatin. But so easy, and if you're looking for something, if you have a makeup design that really suits a pre-made prosthetic transfer that's out there, it's going to be the easiest decision you ever make, I promise. So, silicone is, these next two really are kind of the next step up. So everything that we talked about so far is very introductory, very beginner level. These next two materials, not as much. Silicone is a mixture, it's a 2-part mixture, part A and part B. You put them together and you create basically a rubber. And the rubber you can use to put into a mold to create a prosthetic appliance, or you can use it on your face. Yeah, stop it. I have to be like, not really. You don't like me. My interference is killing me. So again, you can build it on your face like you would with a latex or gelatin. However, it's a little bit more complicated because of the mixture process, which is really the most difficult part of using silicone. And if you want it to act a little bit more like skin, you have to add a third part to it, which is a deadener, and the deadener makes the rubber softer. So if you want a really flesh-like feel to it, you have to add more deadener. So that's a whole other ratio that you gotta mix in. But you can create really wonderful effects with silicone. Much like gelatin, but unlike gelatin, it doesn't get soft when it's hot. That's one downside of gelatin is if you're working outside in a hot temperature, or maybe you're in a small theater under stage lights and moving around a lot, gelatin does get soft. It's not going to melt off your face, but you're going to have a hard time keeping it adhered if you're sweating a lot. So silicone kind of gives it the same look, the same texture, without any of the worry about it getting soft. Foam latex. So we're not going to talk about actually running hot foam, because it's a very complicated material compared to everything else, and it's also a much more complicated process. However, it's on there because you can actually buy pre-made foam latex Phantom the Opera prosthetics commercially, which I didn't even know existed until a couple years ago. I'm like, what? Actually, funny story, I just spent like a whole day sculpting this stuff and molding it and everything else. Went online to buy something like gelatin or whatever for the mold, and I clicked on this website link, and there was this perfect foam latex, professionally made Phantom the Opera prosthetic, and I'm like, all day, it's fine, it's all day. So yeah, you can buy those. FX Warehouse has them, and they come in this design. Basically, they have a skull crater and a kind of a nose and cheek and lip piece. They are professional grade, so they are super high quality, very soft, very light, very flexible, nice to wear, very comfortable to wear. But again, because they're very high quality and they look great, they're not cheap. So a set of those prosthetics will run you about $60. If that's what you want, they're well worth it. Again, professional quality. However, foam latex is really not meant to be applied more than once. People do it, and some of them do it with a lot of success, but again, the edges are very thin and very delicate. So the more you apply the appliance, the more you tend to wreck the very delicate and very thin edge. So it's not that you can't apply it more times, it's just that the more you apply it, the worse it's going to work. So that's the thing with foam latex. If you have a larger costing budget, and you really want something that's very realistic, for the Angel Lloyd Webber version anyway, a great option. But if you're running, say, or you have a lower budget, it might work for you. If you're doing a theater production, and you have multiple shows, and I'm talking like, okay, you're doing a dozen shows of whatever theater production, if you want to use foam latex, do plan on each show having its own set of prosthetics. So that's going to run into your budget pretty hard. Unless you and your makeup artist are incredibly talented and gifted and don't wreck the edges on the prosthetic. So that's kind of foam latex. Next slide. All right, two-dimensional makeup. This is just the stuff that you would use for color and use as foundation. So we talked about grease paint a little bit. It's very heavy, it's very thick, and has a lot of great coverage to it. And it's been in the theater world forever and ever. And again, it was designed to work on latex. So if you're using a lot of liquid latex type stuff, or using a very high quality foam latex appliance like we just talked about, I would suggest using grease paint because they get along really nice. You don't want to wreck your stuff. Because it is heavy, it's relatively thick, it's not the most comfortable thing to wear, so like when I use it, I only ever use it just for the aesthetics. And I try to use cream makeup on this stuff, just a little bit lighter, it's just more comfortable in general. So let's keep that in mind. It also requires a lot of powder, because it's oil-based. So if you use grease paint and you don't powder it, you are going to be a proper mess in about 5 minutes. Doesn't take long at all. So it will get all over everything if you don't powder it very thoroughly. Even if you do powder it, there's still a lot of transfer that will happen if you wear it long enough. Cream makeup. Also very popular in theater. Also very popular with the Halloween crowd as well. You'll see a lot of that type of cream makeup in a Halloween store. Again, try not to use on latex unless you first prepare the latex with a cast sealer. Or if you're only using the latex for like an hour or two, you're just going to toss it anyway in the trash. Cream makeup, not so great with the latex, but it's fine on gelatin and everything else that we talked about. Cake makeup is water-based makeup. I don't use a lot of cake makeup. It's fine. It can give you a lot of great coverage, but a lot of people have issues with cake makeup getting it to stay put when they apply it, and it's usually because they're using a wet sponge. So if you're using cake makeup, one little tip that I would offer is that you, instead of wetting the sponge down, use a dry sponge. Take the little cake makeup guy, it's almost always a little round thing, spray it lightly with water, work the dry sponge into it, get the makeup all up in there until the palette is almost dry, and then you can apply it with a sponge. It gives you much more even and thicker application of cake makeup. Alcohol activated makeup is a little bit rich for this discussion, but it's very fun. And if you have if you're looking toward what you can do later with your Phantom makeup, it's a great option. Alcohol activated is the industry standard in film and TV, and that's because once you apply it, it does not come off. You don't need powder, you don't need a setting spray, you don't need anything. Once you let it dry, it's done, and it's stuck until you remove it. And that's because it's only activated by 99% isopropyl alcohol. So when you go to apply it, if you're using an airbrush or a regular brush or a sponge, you have to dip that into the alcohol first, get the right amount of alcohol, and then you get the makeup from there. So you can create a lot of really very realistic effects with alcohol activated. So you can thin it out and get very thin washes of color to create a much more realistic skin tone, because our skin really is not just one color, it's many colors, layered on top of one another. So to get a really very realistic look, you don't want to use just one, you want to use 4 or 5. And you want to alternate between them. And you want to kind of stipple them on with like a toothbrush kind of thing. And alcohol activated is great for that. So if you've ever seen a really super realistic makeup, like on film and TV, like really close up, it's probably alcohol activated because you can do so much with it. Or you can put it on really thick and opaque too. This depends on how much alcohol that you actually use. That said, again, it's very expensive. So if you have a higher budget, or you're just maybe planning out your Phantom costume for later, it's a great option, but it does cost a lot more money than the others out there. And street and cosmetic makeup. Very popular for those just starting out. or those that want to try to save a little bit more money. Problem with the cosmetic grade makeup is that it doesn't have the coverage quality that you get with theatrical grade makeup. So folks will buy out like a water-based cake makeup and a cosmetic grade, like run out and buy something from Target. That's great, but you tend to use a lot more of it to get the coverage that you really want. So it's kind of a wash as to how much money you actually save, because depending on what you're trying to do, what material you're working with as a 3D material, you may have a lot more difficulty using a cosmetic grade makeup than if you just went out and bought something that came from a theater store or one of the websites that I went to on site. So I always just go for the theatrical grade makeup. It's a lot faster to put on. It's just a much better coverage for what I need to do. Okay, slide please. Eyebrows and adhesives. Okay, eyebrow cover. So again, if you're using liquid latex around your eyebrows, you need to cover them. Unless you really don't want eyebrows, and again, there's so many more easier ways to have eyebrows. Eyebrow plastic is a wax material that I use. It's by Gelatin. It's relatively simple. You just rub it into your eyebrow, you smooth it out, and you seal it with flexible sealer. Gives you a very realistic cover for the eyebrow, but it's not cheap. So a little stick of it will run you about $10 or $12, and that doesn't include the flexible sealer. So not the cheapest option, but a very good one. On the cheap, you can use glue sticks, like Elmer's glue. So all you do is just work that into your brow really well, you smooth it back, and you powder it. If you have really thick brows, what you can do is rinse and repeat, basically. Work it in, you smooth it down, you powder, and keep doing that until the eyebrow is basically gone. I see you cringing over there. It's perfectly safe. Actually, a lot of professionals do use this method. I know some folks on Broadway that actually use this for different characters. It's just a simple, easy way to do it. And then you just go through with like a rubbing alcohol and remove it. So most glue will come out with just a regular rubbing alcohol compound. So bar soap's another option. Same thing. So you just get the bar soap kind of damp on one corner, and you just work it into the brow really well. You smooth it out, and you can powder, and then you can put makeup on top of that if you want to. It's not the best option. I would choose glue sticks before I went with the bar soap. But if you're really working on a budget, it can work. Gelatin, again, will go straight in the hair and come straight back out, no issues. So if you want to use that as an eyebrow cover, you totally can. You can also dry out strips of latex, like paint it on a piece of glass or something, let it dry, and then glue that over your brow if you want to. It's a little bit involved. It doesn't look that great. Typically, like the more makeup you add, typically the less great it looks. So, but it's an option if you need it. And finally, prosthetic adhesive. You can, same thing with the glue sticks. Paint it into your brow, smooth it back, powder it, set. And adhesives, okay, so starting pretty much from the top is one of the strongest ones out there is prosthetic adhesive, aka Prosthetic. We love it because it's fairly sweat resistant. It will stay most of the day, and it's very strong. So if you have a very involved prosthetic, like I'm wearing 4 right now, hopefully it's not blatantly obvious that I have 4 prosthetic appliances on my face. But these will hold all day because I use Prosthetic. The other neat thing about Prosthetic is that once you get the prosthetic on your face, if you're using a latex prosthetic, you can actually go over it and paint over the edge with the prosthetic adhesive, let that dry, powder it, and it just helps create a more seamless blend in the skin. Because again, latex, whether it's foam or liquid, there's only so much blending that you can do. So the Prosthetic method is a great way to just create that more seamless transition. So,
How do you get it off?
with rubbing alcohol. I'm going to talk about that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Medical adhesive is another very strong grade adhesive. This is what we use in they use in hospitals. It's the same level of hold as Prosthetic, which is very strong, but it's better for sensitive skin. So that's why they use it in hospitals. So medical adhesive, silicone adhesive, another very strong adhesive. It has its own silicone-based removal agent. But those top 3 are really your best options if you want the makeup to last a long time. And again, if you're working theater, 5 minutes space, it's a good way to go. Spirit gum, not so great. If you throw it in, it crystallizes, and then your adhesive is blown. And liquid latex, you can use it as an adhesive, also not that strong. Okay, and yes, you would remove them with a rubbing alcohol. 91% rubbing alcohol you can get pretty much at any drugstore. and it takes everything off. Everything off. So if you want to save a lot of money, just go out to your drugstore and get 91%. But hair and wigs real quickly, because I want to spend a couple minutes for Q&A. You can use your own hair, and if you wanted to match a character, obviously you have to dye and cut your own hair to match. Or if you don't want to do that, then just alter the character. I mean, so what if Eric has long blonde hair? Ultimately, I mean, really. Or you can use a different type of wig. So costume grade wigs is what you're going to find in like a typical Halloween store today. They have a very hard hairline because they're basically folded under on the front. So you have a very natural hairline here. You're not going to get that on a costume grade wig from a party store. So if you want a very natural hairline, and I'm speaking specifically for Phantom, on this one, what you can do is get a lace front wig, which are much more affordable these days than they used to be. They used to run like $500, $600, and these days you can get them for about $150. A good one. A good one. And that gives you that more realistic hairline. Or you can do what I did, which I do not recommend to anybody. I created two fully ventilated full lace wigs, which is the exact same quality and the exact same method that's used on Broadway. Every hair on this wig that I'm wearing is tied on by hand, starting from the backward and all the way to the front. So for me, it's about 120 hours worth of work. If you want a fully accurate stage costume, then that's what you really need to do. Or, again, use your own hair. They're the most expensive wigs out there. If you have one built for you, and I know because I have Broadway wig makers quote me, they start at about $2,000. Starts. So depending on what kind of additions or measurements, whatever you make to the wig, it's going to get even more expensive. So again, it's a lot of work, and it's a craft. So they have to learn and get better at this. And I'm not good at it at all, but I still, I figured it out. But if you're having a professional do it, it's going to cost you a lot of money for good reason because they're very skilled at what they do. Again, only recommend it for the most accurate costume projects because it is so much work. Unless you do want to add wig making to your resume, in which case it's a good enough excuse. Okay, slide please. All right, kind of rushed through the last couple of slides, but if you have any questions at all, I'm happy to answer them. Okay.
When you first started on the Phantom makeup, how long did it take you to actually do it, and how long did it take you originally to remove it?
To apply it, because when I first started out, I did a lot of the liquid latex and cotton buildup method. That took me a pretty solid 3 hours. From me, normal me, to this, about 3 hours. And it takes about 20 minutes to remove. Because liquid latex, you pretty much just peel it off, no big deal. This scheme, when I'm actually moving on time, and I know what I'm doing, I haven't done this in a couple of years, so I'm kind of still rusty. It should only take me about an hour. If these are pre-made and pre-painted and ready to go. So, and it's still about 15-20 minutes to remove it. So, yep. Yes, sir?
Yeah. At my age, a lot of the, obviously I'm lacking hair. My hair's actually growing back now. I've started putting onion juice and aloe on it. And
There you go.
At any rate, the fuzz on top is growing faster. But I see a lot of parts I'd like to submit for, and they have, historical people that have hair on top.
Yep.
But the cheap wigs I buy are very full, obviously, because that's how they stay on.
Yep.
Basically.
There's a lot of foundation material.
Is there a way, short of spending hundreds of dollars? I mean, I know the other way is you actually build it a little bit at a time, and then it's disposed of when you're finished.
A couple of ways that you can do it to do it cheaper. I've actually had folks ask me to do this and basically take a rubber ball cap, a really high-grade quality rubber ball cap. You can build the wig onto that using liquid latex and like a cheaper hair. So you can get a very realistic hairline using just a rubber ball cap, latex.
And you buy the hair?
Yeah, you can buy synthetic hair. I would suggest synthetic hair for something that's a little bit more realistic. If you're trying to keep it really super cheap, then crepe hair, which again you can buy at any party store at Halloween time. They come in long braids and just wool basically.
And you cut them up.
You cut them up and you iron them flat, and but it's a very thick hair. It's like yak hair basically. Or you can learn to knot, and you can do like a top piece if you wanted to. It wouldn't take you that long, but it's still going to run you about 150 in supplies for just the
Well, I mean, a good ball wig alone is pretty expensive.
Unfortunately, yeah, because unfortunately, anything that's really hyper-realistic with the hair goes, I mean, it involves ventilating it on, which is tying it on by hand. So they're not cheap, unfortunately.
And my other question, you said spirit gum isn't a good adhesive. I mean, why is that like?
It's everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
it's-
thought you used.
it's-
That's what I thought there was.
It's a great adhesive for hair pieces. So like I use it to glue the wig down. That's all I use it for. Because unfortunately, when I started using it before for prosthetics, if you sweat in it, it will crystallize. And when it crystallizes, it loses all the adhesive properties and your stuff basically just falls off. So yeah, I mean, you can use it for prosthetics, and that's why it's so popular around Halloween, because it's not that difficult to use, but it's not the best out there if you're doing prosthetic work. For lace hair pieces, it's great.
And mustaches. And
Mustache,
Oh, yeah.
sideburns.
Yeah. Great for hair pieces. Rubbish for prosthetics. So.
Oh, now I understand what the spirit gum. I thought you were talking about it.
No, it's
Yeah.
just for hair is really it's the only use I have for it these days. So, any other questions? I think we're done. Okay, on around all weekend. So if you have any questions, please feel free to come up and ask me. I'm happy to answer. Thank you.